Surround yourself with the dreamers and the doers, the believers and thinkers, but most of all, surround yourself with those who see the greatness within you, even when you don't see it yourself. This is Dreamers and Doers with your host, Marco Rosales, and today I have a dreamer, doer, father, pastor, and an inspiration. Welcome, hermano Tselot Kifle.
Thank you. I'm very glad to be here. This is a great platform.
Are you sure, Sister Aubrey? Are you sure you don't want to join?
Doesn't want to join us, but no, she has a good excuse.
For the next one, I'm actually gonna have couples. So
Fair. That's fair.
she is invited. So, well, here we are, brother.
Where do we start? We've already started.
We did like this
So
this whole time ever
We
since.
have to catch the camera up to where we've been.
I know. So, been a long day for me, but finally made it. And then I got here. We got all the gear in one trip from the car, which I parked across the street.
That's a story in and of itself. Yeah.
And I forgot for a second that it was Oakland, and we got.
I was getting pretty nervous.
I'm glad you reminded me because I just forgot. I was so focused on okay, we're here. Let me get the gear, and I'm not thinking we're walking around with $1,000 worth of equipment in one of the most what would you call it?
East Oakland. Just leave it there. If you know, you know.
Yeah. So yeah. We've already talked. We already covered so much. We're gonna have to catch up, but it's not about me today. It's about you. We're gonna start from the beginning. My first question is, what's your origin story? Where did it all start?
Well, I was born in Berkeley, California. My parents are both Ethiopian immigrants, and they both came when they were about the age of 18. They met each other here and got married, got the Holy Ghost. My dad got the Holy Ghost on the floor, living room floor, in a Bible study taught by his cousin, and they went to church, got baptized in Pleasanton, California, and not too far from here. And shortly after that, they transitioned to assisting in a mostly Ethiopian apostolic congregation, and that's kind of where I grew up. So I remember the first time I really started going to non-Ethiopian church. I didn't know a lot of the songs that I guess everybody should know, like all the classic Pentecostal songs, because I knew a lot of Ethiopian songs. And so that was just, I remember just that feeling of that transition, because my parents moved on from pastoring that work, and then I'm making a very long story short.
Hey, take your time. I mean,
yeah. And so after that, my parents started a church in what was then our living room, and so I've been helping my parents as a young child to help them, home missions, and then also that same home mission church that started in my parents' living room ultimately moved to Berkeley. And then when my parents stepped down, God called me to pastor the church. And when I started pastoring the church, it was I remember the day I became the pastor. It's March, I think, 23rd, I think it was, 2014. I was 20. And the church, I just remember that out of nowhere, like you started popping up, and I was like, "Oh, pastors! Oh, really? Oh, yeah. Cool." And I think by that time I'd already been pastoring for a few years.
Wow!
Just I was single, and man, God's been good. That's all I'm going to say. And so, no, really, we started. And so when I took the church, I remember there was 3 people there that day. We were in a basement. Every time it rained, it leaked. And it flooded, and as you may already know, this past Sunday, after 6 years, 4 months, and I think 18 or 19 days now, I handed the church over to Brother Brandon Puller, who actually most people don't know is Sam Emery's nephew. You could.
Oh wow, yeah, no,
Yeah.
I do know when Brother Emery made a lasting impression on me when I started going to church, because it was
Yeah.
probably the first conference I went to that he preached at.
Oh, really?
It was called Alabama Revival Conference,
Yeah.
and this is over 10 years ago when I first got into church. I
Yeah.
was like, I like this guy.
Legend.
Yes, sir.
And so my wife and I are just transitioning out of pastoring, and yeah, now the church is literally above ground, like literally physically speaking, and we've moved it to Hayward, and got a beautiful building, beautiful congregation, and there's a mosquito. Sorry, the door's open. And so it's been an amazing, incredible journey. But in a nutshell, that's my origin story from, growing up in church and then ultimately to being a pastor and then to now. That's probably the most condensed version. I'm sure there's a shorter version.
Very, very condensed. I mean, so
I don't know how long this podcast is supposed to be. So
well, as long as it needs to be. The past couple of them have been 2.5 hours. And then Brother Ash, I thought his was gonna be longer because he's just been alive longer and he's went through so much. But I'm gonna have everyone again.
Yeah.
This is just season 1. This is just kind of I still don't know what I'm doing, but I'm more
it
of
looks to me like you know what you're doing. If you guys could see,
Here's the wide shot.
let's see.
There's the wide
If you
shot.
could see everything that's on this table.
The
So-
lights and stuff. We actually carried all of this
one trip.
in one trip because
I don't think people will understand the magnitude of that. That was amazing.
it's on a spiritual level, like just not just the groceries. It's like I don't know. You're like your manliness. It's on the line almost because
It's
you
got to
can't
be
take.
in one trip.
Yeah, like multiple trips are for sissies, and it's not even about like we have some equipment here that we could have dropped, but it wouldn't even matter, as long as we
As
did
long
it
as
in
we
one-
made it in one trip.
one
That's,
trip.
That's what matters.
Yes, but we
So-
did it. So, no, but the podcast, just my goal is to talk to people who have inspired me, and maybe they will inspire others with their stories, with their accomplishments, and also I don't know. Are we like we were talking earlier? When before COVID, we were trying for more live streaming for conferences.
Right.
Churches getting on with it, but we got a little pushback, right? And then COVID happened, and now everyone is like, how do you
live stream? Yeah. I'm curious. How many phone calls do you think you got with that question, or just live stream questions?
So it's not as bad now, but I don't mind it at all. I don't say this like to. I mean, I usually I blast people sometimes, but this is not the time. This is not what this is. Right now, I just want to say, when it started, I got bombarded. I mean, I remember when it all started, and people said, "Oh, you might not be able to get back to California." I was in Arkansas, and I was staying with Andrew Flowers. I don't know if you know him. But I was hanging out with him, and we were actually already like, they're like, oh yeah, let's set up the live stream for our church, blah blah blah, and we're just hanging out. I'm staying at his house, and I mean, throughout the whole day, I kept getting calls and
So there was
messages.
like one day in particular where it was like
when it all started.
Yeah.
When the order
probably when the orders happened.
Yes, when it started happening across the country. But for this, like, we have to rewind. And for live streaming, I got on. I'm gonna back up a little bit, and I got an invitation from Epic Games to monetize content because you have to have a certain amount of followers or whatever. I was like, hey, a little extra money for gaming.
Mm-hmm.
I used to game, but then life happens. So
Right.
I'm trash now. But if I was like, hey, I can learn about streaming and I can make a little money, so then. That's how I learned. That's how I taught myself for about a year.
Okay.
And made a little money, while learning and while playing video games. I mean, come on,
Yeah.
So
I think for most people, video games is pretty unjustifiable. But I mean, if you're making money, which is hard to do,
and I didn't get sponsored or anything. This is just by sharing your gamer code, and then people make purchases and you get a percentage.
Yeah.
Pretty simple. But then it taught me a bunch of things regarding live streaming, all the technical stuff, all the stuff that goes wrong.
And that came in handy this year, especially.
Yes, then COVID happened.
COVID,
but I was ready.
yeah.
I was ready, and I knew enough to. I mean, I'm not an expert or anything. I don't claim to be, but I was able to help churches with the knowledge. And one thing that my brother and I have talked about is the church should be proactive, not reactive. I think this was just a small show, a small example of what can happen in a very short amount of time.
Absolutely, yeah.
And we need to be prepared. So this podcast is fun and everything. I get to talk to people that inspire me, but in reality, I'm learning. I'm teaching myself all these skills, all this, and it's not really a lot. It's just set up the equipment, get your stream going, multiple cameras. But I know, I feel it, that it will be useful in the future,
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it was a sharp learning curve. We had to kind of figure out what we were going to do. And I think definitely there was people who were set up, technology wise. And then there was, I didn't even know what a streaming card was when all this first started.
But you had knowledge because I noticed and that's one of the things I admire about you
that day I think I commented on your stream deck. I figured out what it was that day. I mean, don't be deceived.
No, but your stuff that you put out, I mean, while pastoring and while, being a father, a husband, and then I admire people that still have the time to teach themselves. And not only that, but you guys, you and your wife have an artistic eye. I appreciate that.
Thank you. So I didn't think anyone besides our church was paying attention to, our content and media.
No, but they do. Here's a funny story. Next week, I'm doing a podcast with Brother Davis.
Uh-huh.
So the way I came in contact with him is I knew some of the people from his church a little bit, but it was because of their social media. And I needed a place in, there was a couple of suggestions, but when their social media presence grabbed my attention, how clean it was, and really portraying how a church is, I was like, I'm going to that church when I go see family. And we'll be talking about it when I have him on the podcast next week. And, you probably think your social media presence is not that important, but people are watching, people and then also the ones that don't know.
Right. Yeah, I guess that's why it's there at the end of the day. I mean, our goal is to, create awareness, within our community. And we've got in touch with several people who ended up coming to church from internet and media stuff. And even throughout this whole COVID ordeal, we have people who found our church, who found our live stream, and they're faithful to the live stream.
That's probably the only way some people would have, found it, with this situation. So
yeah,
it's not all bad.
Some of them are family members. One of them was a backslider of a family member in our church, and they prayed through.
Praise God.
And so that's the goal, is that people who've never heard of Pentecost, Acts 2:38, or backslider would engage with the content. And man, if at the moment the best thing is them watching the live stream and praying through in the living room and speaking in tongues, I mean, that's...
Or I feel like also it can be a way to prime someone that's never heard of it, someone that's never experienced it.
Yeah.
And then when the time comes, when they're ready, they can come out and experience the real thing.
Absolutely. People become familiar with the faces and the people in the environment. And I got several text messages from people that fell through the cracks, people I'd been teaching Bible study. A lot of things obviously got upended with COVID, but people were texting me and saying, hey, we're watching, it was powerful, it was convicting, and we're in touch with these people. And I have a brand new Bible study that I just got the other day, and it was because of our online presence. It was actually another backslider from 20 years ago.
Oh yeah.
And that's the goal is to put information out there and cast the net out. Whether in theory everything works, right? Everything, all forms of outreach in theory they work, and so we've been blessed to have, some results,
And why not use what the world uses for? That's always been my thing. Starting with YouTube, that's where I kind of got my break. Where people started to get to know me.
I think for obvious reasons, there's there's always been reluctance to go video, but I think with the advent of internet and streaming, it's allowed us to control. It's different from other forms of media because you can actually control that content. Your website is your website. Nothing else on our church. You'll see nothing. You won't see a Bud Light commercial on our church website, and then that's where you have to go to get to our live stream. And so we control that. And so I think in obviously, I'm only speaking for myself and for the church that I pastored. It really helped us, because I'm not sure. People might be listening from other states, but here in California, things got pretty draconian, and
gotta love Cali.
It was what it was, and to some degree, it is what it is still. They still strongly recommend that churches just live stream, and we saw a lot of adaptation, and as you said, a lot of people just got with the program, because these are just unprecedented times. And so I'm just simply saying that for us in our situation, it was a blessing to us. It was a very sharp and steep learning curve. As I said, there was stuff that I was reading about and then I was seeing you do, and I was like, oh, okay, that's what he's doing. And so it was actually great to see that it was an inspiration, because seeing you leaps and bounds, kind of ahead of the game, was inspiring, because, man, when you're home missions and you don't have departments and staff, you learn to do a lot of things on your own. And I was like, man, how am I going to figure this out? And just seeing someone else who figured it out is an inspiration, And so I think there was a few things I asked you about, your opinion on and whatnot. But the funny thing is, ultimately, we didn't do a whole lot of live streaming. We did initially. Initially, we did live streaming. And the building that we rent, we discussed this earlier, their internet connection was so-so.
Right.
In fact, they didn't have it at first. And the internet connection was really choppy, and people were letting us know in the comments.
Oh, man, yeah, that's the worst. When there's something out of your control, like the internet.
Yeah.
And it's happened to me where you're live streaming a conference and then bad weather or something affects the connection. And then it's like, what's the backup plan? Like, I always like to have a backup plan.
There has to be redundancies. There has to be.
So, like right now, for example, I have... Oh, look, I'm out of focus. Got to fix that. But right now, let's go to that angle. Your angle with your camera. There you go.
This is my I have an EOS M, which is... This is
oldie but goodie.
It's an oldie but goodie.
I just sold mine.
Did you really?
Yes, I just sold mine.
You should have let me know, man. These cameras they're old,
but it's a beast.
It just happened to be what I had laying around, and they obviously there's this we were discussing this earlier. We have that Magic Lantern firmware update, which that was an adventure in and of itself, figuring that out, because I need to clean HDMI.
Yes.
And I mean, ultimately I didn't live stream, but there was a lot of things that I had to learn how to do. And one of them was clean HDMI. And a lot of even newer cameras don't even do it.
Right.
More expensive cameras.
Yes. It's actually, I've been to, what is going on here? Oh well. Technical difficulties.
It's okay.
So... see, not everything always goes according to plan.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have to figure that one out.
There it is. I think you just went into focus.
Okay, there you go. It's the mic.
Fixed.
It's the mic. Okay.
It was the mic.
So, redundancies, and then what was I talking about? You have to
clean HDMI.
Yes.
Getting a clean image out of your camera to go into your broadcasting.
That's happened to me before. And, I was like, I wasn't going to hack someone's brand new camera, So there's just all these little things that someone should take a burden for at their church. Like, it can't be the pastor's job, It was kind of cool that when it comes to technical stuff or like website, and I mean, yeah, I'm gonna brag about my brother a little bit, but like my pastor, that's one thing that kind of in our church, like when pastor says, "I need this done," it's like we are on it, you know.
Absolutely.
Like when this happened, it's like, okay, it was like a Monday, I think. He's like, "How quick can we have a live stream setup and the giving online?" You know, he was kind of, I don't know if people want for some time, right? Online giving. And we're like, please, pastor, like,
Yeah.
you know, please, you know, checks take too long to come out of your account. And then cash, I don't like carrying cash around. I mean, I do, but then it's like, oh, my tithe, I have to bring it on that day because I don't want to do a check.
Right. There's
So
definitely
online
convenience with online giving, you know.
So he for that, he's like, when can we have it done? It was like a Monday night late. And we're like, it'll be done by Tuesday. So we pulled an all-nighter, my brother and I, new website, new intro video for the church, and then the new setup for online giving and everything. And I mean, yeah, I'm bragging a little bit, but in a way it's like somebody needs to take up that ministry in their church.
Yeah.
And, you know, maybe you're not singing, maybe you're not preaching. A lot of people want to preach and want the clap that comes with that. But somebody needs to
There's so much
pick up the
that goes on
camera,
behind the scenes, and I'm
graphic
just coming
design
from a home missions, you know, standpoint. You know, I mean, there's much larger churches and larger operations, and I know that, man, I could have used a tech guy, you know, to some degree, like, yeah, I'm tech literate, but only because I'm willing to, you know, to kind of just learn it myself. But I don't consider myself like a tech person. It's just the need arises and, you know, you do it, you know. And I think in your situation, like, that's pretty incredible. Monday night, Tuesday morning, all-nighter, that's a lot of manpower, you know. That's a pretty amazing workflow, to be honest. I mean, to do that in one night, and that stuff's important. You know, we had online giving set up, and that, honestly, we'd never used it. I think it was used once.
That's funny.
But it was there. And, you know, we just, when it was virtual offering time, instead of passing the bucket around, I sent the link.
There you go.
You know, and it was virtual offering time. And, you know, in our church, offering is after service. And so as soon as the live stream was ended, that link would automatically go out.
Nice.
You know, and so there were so many things that we had to relearn how to do in a virtual sense. You know, it was just.
And maybe, you know, I mean, I would like to think there's a zombie apocalypse coming, you know, but we don't know that. That's just me being hopeful. But
we honestly, from what I understand, I don't want to be the prophet of doom, but
aliens.
September is going to be a rough month.
Why is that?
Well, number one, a lot of the government assistance is ending.
Ooh.
And then in California, at least, the ban on evictions is ending in a couple weeks. And so you could potentially have a very upset portions of the population. And who knows what's going to happen, how much that will destabilize things. But all that to say, I think everybody has learned a lot of skills over the past several months.
Oh yeah, we were just talking about that earlier.
I think they're here to stay. You know,
Yes.
the skills that we've picked up. I mean, you know, this stuff. We've learned so much, and you're learning stuff. I mean, if you're learning stuff, I mean, you know.
Yes, sir.
I saw a little quote the other day that said, "For those of you who didn't learn a new skill, you know,
didn't like time.
For those of you who didn't learn a new skill during COVID, don't worry, we'll be back on lockdown soon."
Oh, I saw one that says, I like stuff like that. Like I like quotes like that. There was one that said, if you didn't pick up a new skill during COVID, you didn't lack time, you lack discipline.
True. I mean, yeah. I mean, that's a roast, but it's probably well deserved.
I like roast, man. Like I was telling you, like, this podcast is not for that, but that's just me. Like, and I don't do it.
This is your podcast, so.
But like I don't do it in a mean spirited way, but like just the way I've grown up and everything. You know, we were talking about
There's nothing
earlier.
wrong with tough love.
Yes, that's more like it. It's like
That's what it is. It's tough love.
Raising my brothers was a little, like, hey, can you do this, or that? I'm like, no, you do it, or learn how to do it, and it was always that. But then in the end, it paid off, because now look at them. Like, you can drop them off in a, I don't know, so anywhere, and they will thrive, because we grew up with that. Yeah, and I feel like we need more of that. Like, hey, figure it out. Like, a lot of times I upset people because you're roasting me, or you're being mean. And I don't mean that, but it's like, toughen up, and it's like, be ready, figure it out, be prepared. Yeah,
we were talking about earlier the difference between,
maturity.
We're talking about maturity. Thank you. I'm sleep deprived. I have a 7-week-old baby. And
Congrats.
Before the podcast, barfed all over me. We're talking about maturity, and the essence of maturity is responsibility. Taking personal responsibility for stuff, and some people mistake comportment for maturity. Simply your posture, your tone, your how often you laugh or smile, or how stiff you are. That you can act like an old person comportment wise, but that doesn't necessarily mean there's maturity there. Real maturity comes from responsibility. I think Lamentations 3:27 says that it is good for the young man to bear the yoke in his youth. And
praise God.
Having responsibilities placed on you early, that's the catalyst for developing maturity. Some people are lighthearted. That doesn't mean they're immature. Some people are stoic. That doesn't mean they're mature.
Right.
Maturity are there responsibilities that depend on only you doing that job. And if you don't do that, what happens? Maturity is how many bills are in your name, not someone else's. Like, they come to your address, if you have an address. And the Lamentations 3:27 says it's good for the young man to bear the burden in his youth. And there's definitely I think there's a lot of ways for young people to accept responsibilities. Not all responsibilities will be placed on you. Some people's lives are arranged in certain ways, and that's fine. I'm not saying that you living with your parents is bad in all situations. What I'm saying is there's ways to proactively find and seek responsibilities, like you were saying earlier, in your local church. Some people like to ask, what do you need to be done? What do you need to be done?
Right.
They ask their leaders, their pastor, what would you need to be done? Well, if you looked hard, and if you really caught your pastor's vision, you would already know.
You would find something to do.
You would find something to do, and you would accept that. You would induce that responsibility and that burden on yourself, and thus make yourself indispensable in your local congregation. And we have men. There was men in the church that I pastored. I have to speak it in past tense now, which is unusual for me. It's 6 years of pastoring, and there was things that I didn't know how to do. I wasn't going to learn how to do, and they do it. Reverend Brandon Puller is now the pastor. He has a completely different skill set than me. I tend to be a little more tech oriented, though. Like I said, I don't really claim that as my strong point. I'm not Marco. I'm not you. But Brandon is an electrician, and so there's going to be a whole set of skills, that he brings, and then also there's going to be tech is not his strong point, so he's going to have to lean on somebody else for tech, whereas I had to lean on, we have a guy in our church he's a great, he does contracting stuff, and I didn't have to do any of that, and so responsibility, regardless of how much has been placed on you, I think right now is an opportunity for especially for young people to look around, and look, I'm going to say this because a lot of pastors won't say it because they're godly and they're humble.
Say it, brother. Say it. This is the place to say it. That's what this is.
pastors right now are dealing with a lot of decision making, and when you're making decisions on a scale, on a corporate scale like that, for a lot of people, for a lot of things, that takes willpower. And there's never been a better time for young people to step up and start saying, okay, this is going to get done. This is just going to get done. I don't have to ask. I know it's a need. And that's I'll get off my soapbox about accepting responsibilities.
Oh no, hey, that's what this is about. I want to talk about all these topics that, like you said, maybe not a lot of pastors will talk about. And
yeah, I can advocate for them because I was one now for 6 years.
There you go.
And I can do it with a certain liberty because now I'm off the field, so it won't look so bad. I'm no longer, so I can put the plug in for pastors and say they're dealing with decisions, and on the fly every day is a completely new set of decisions to make, and they're not easy decisions to make, and so man, respect and a shout out to all of the COVID era pastors. I mean, I'm pretty sure that's what they'll be referred to in history.
Yes.
You had Depression era pastors.
Yes.
This is going to be a whole segment in history in which we're going to have to really look back, and we're going to honor the flexibility, adaptability, that churches, pastors, leadership staff, tech, sound, musicians, everybody. This is an all hands on deck type of thing. So,
and that's one of the things that I always like to talk about, being available and acquiring more skills that you can use for the kingdom.
Yeah.
And not just that, but then if you want to kick it up a notch, I will be talking in this podcast. I already have some people lined up, some successful business owners, because I believe that being financially independent is very important, so that you can give yourself, not so that you can flex and buy a Tesla Model X and pay for it cash. Like that's that's just part of it, right?
Yeah.
But the time to not only grow yourself but also help other people grow and develop,
Absolutely.
Passing the torch, teaching them what if you're an older guy, you share some of that wisdom with that work ethic with some of the younger ones. If you're a younger guy, win souls, go get a commercial driver's license so that you can pick up kids, start a new ministry. I don't know, but I want to talk to business owners, people that started their own business and that are successful. And I actually just had Brother Ash, he moved from, you haven't seen that one.
I haven't seen it yet.
Okay. Well, actually I had it live. So what I do is I have them live and then I get the edited copy and then I air that one after I edit it. But he moved from Alabama and then started all over at 50 something years old, and he's got the age, the experience behind him, but if somebody can do it at that age in California, anybody can do it. And if some of us have done it, and anybody can do it, just go to the next level.
I'll be sure to check that out, man.
That one's a good one. But also I wanted to ask you, tell me a little bit about, you told me about your a little bit of your backstory, in pastoring. Tell me a little bit about Concretus Press, that project. So
Concretus Press was, which is a small independent apostolic publishing company that I started. I haven't been able to give it much time, but now that my situation is changing, it's going to get a lot more. So I had this idea that I wanted to co-author a small Bible commentary, and the idea was to call it the Apostolic Devotional Commentary. And the target was, younger people, and it was a non-technical commentary. And I said, well, before I do a commentary, I'm going to need the text of the Bible, formatted, because it's a commentary on the Bible. And so I started looking for the full KJV body of text, and it was very difficult to find it. And so I ended up, I think, using Blue Letter Bible to get about 7 or 8 chapters of the Bible at a time. Now, I didn't know the entire... Long story short, I started reading the Bible in a single column format as I was reformatting it for this commentary. And I thought to myself, why should I even put a commentary out before I've actually formatted the Bible into a unique package that could serve to help increase biblical literacy.
A lot more readable, a lot more digestible. I love my dual column Spanish English calfskin covered, Reina Valera KJV side by side. That's like my main big Bible. And I didn't always used to wear glasses, and the way I found out I needed glasses was because my saints told me. They're like, Pastor, you read the same line like twice, and you do it often. And so the Bibles that we have and that we use in church are beautiful, and they serve a specific purpose, and that is liturgical use. That is, we use them as a group to find the same passage very quickly. And there's no other way to do that very quickly. Obviously, there's phones, but there's no way to. There's no format that serves that purpose better than a reference Bible. That's why it's called a reference Bible, right? But when I'm home and I want to simply read, most of the books you pick up are single column format, and so I noticed that there was actually quite a lot of single column readers type Bibles out there, and that's what they're called, readers Bibles. And I guess they're implying that other Bibles aren't meant to be read. I guess that's not really a good implication. But so I was like, okay, let me look at this. Apparently these things exist. This is not new with me. It's not a novel idea. But I noticed that of all of the translations of the Bible, the KJV was the most neglected when it came to getting the reader's Bible treatment, for whatever reason. And maybe the larger Bible publishers know that people aren't so interested in the King James Version. I'm sorry, but I love the King James Version. I read other versions, but when I'm going through a trial, I don't quote the NLT. I'm speaking King James. When I'm praying and the devil's assaulting me, I'm speaking King James. Yes.
And so that's
what, for those that don't know, most Pentecostal apostolics, that's what we use mostly.
For most people, it's the most popular book ever, period.
KJV.
It has literally shaped our language. There's phrases that people who've never read the Bible, they use that is from the Bible. Like the phrase "from time to time" is King James English. The King James Bible has impacted the English language like no other book. And I'm going to be honest, I was a little righteously indignant that the King James Bible wasn't getting this treatment, this Reader's Bible Deluxe multi-volume treatment. I said, why should I come out with a commentary before this is done?
Right.
And so I guess inadvertently or without intentionally doing it, Concretus was born. And I started formatting it, and I'm doing all of this on Pages, right? I'm not using professional Adobe Suite stuff. Right?
Which there's more on that coming out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
You were telling me.
Yeah. So one of the things that I have a passion for is there's people who want to write books and things like that, and I want to help people. Not that I'm a pro graphic designer. I just want to help people. Publish things for their church, and I want to start putting out some resources that would help, people publish their own material.
Right.
Templates, tutorials, things of that nature, as well as publishing my own content or our own content. By that I mean, the first, our inaugural or first project that we did, what we called the Bible was Scriptio Continua, like Latin phrase for continuous script. So it's King James Bible, no chapters, no verses, fully justified text, really nice readable font, and there's small books that are 5 or 4 by 6 inches. I think those are the ones you had on there earlier. Pull up again.
This one's
so
right
the little ones, and so some of the smaller books are combined. Some of the prophets are combined because they're really, really short. So that's the pocket version, and then there's a larger version. That's
Scriptio
Genesis,
Continua.
Scriptio Continua. And then if you
Like
go
this.
to beneath that, there's a larger book. That's the first 5 books, and that's kind of like a more special edition.
That's cool.
Standard 6x9 hardback. It's got like a green linen cover, and those are the first 2 things that we're doing. And like I said, I haven't been able to give it as much time as it deserves. I actually have everything ready to print. Time.
Oh, I know. I have countless projects.
And so that's my excuse for anybody who's wondering, where these things are at. They're actually there and they're ready. I literally have to press a few buttons. So, that's the goal. The goal is to provide, particularly, younger people with tools for growth. And I'm also working with, I can't spill the beans completely. I'm working with, one pastor, possibly another pastor, who are putting out Bible studies. Pastors, a lot of them have a lot of material, and a lot of them have wanted to get it out and put it in print or put it in ebook or a PDF or format it or edit it to be optimized to be used by other people, and they haven't had the time. Right.
So it would be awesome if someone would step in
and so that's
and help with their skill set.
Exactly. That's another vision, and that is asking other fellow ministers, evangelists, or pastors, hey, do you have something that you're working on that I could help you with? And I've done that, and there's going to be some stuff coming out in the near future. Don't want to spill the tea before it's time. And I honestly, it brings me joy to see someone else's project come to life. It just really makes me happy. And I don't mean that in any, it really makes me happy when I can help someone take something, put it to life, put feet under it, and bring that concept alive, And so I'm trying to strike the balance between, original content, helping people with their stuff, and I don't know what it's going to become. I'm totally open to whatever this develops into, but one of the next big things is I'm not exactly pleased with the actual physical quality of some of the printers we've been using, because we've been using print on demand, and print on demand is great at a certain scale, but when you want nicer stuff, you kind of have to do bulk prints, offset printing. And so something I've been working on for a long time, which is also why I've also been trying to become more video literate, is I'm going to be running a Kickstarter campaign to really generate some revenue for the Scriptio Continua project, because there's been interest outside of, the immediate, fellowship of apostolic Pentecostal believers that I'm in. Some people have contacted me, and honestly, I just haven't gone back to them. People have said, man, this is really exciting. There was actually one of the major projects that made readers' Bibles more or less kind of popular and mainstream was a project that a guy ran on Kickstarter. Just one-man shop, like a guy and his wife, and he put out an idea that he was going to put the Bible in 4 volumes without verse or chapter. And I think the Kickstarter overnight, I think it got featured in like the Washington Post or something.
Oh, wow.
And like overnight, went from like, I don't know, a few $1,000 to like $1.8 million. And I mean, I'm not sure that, you know, to be honest, I'm not sure if that could be replicated. It was kind of like once in a lifetime there, but there was enough interest outside, you know, in the general population of people in the project. So people have shown interest. You know, people have, you know, contacted me, said, hey, we want to know about this. What's going on? Could you send us samples? You know, what are you doing? And I'm going to lie. I'm not going to lie. I said I'm going to lie, but I'm not going to lie. Lying's not good. I'm not going to lie. My perfectionist, you know, side kind of kicked in and really wanted to refine things before it got out. But this is what I learned. You don't
done
make, you don't,
is better than perfect.
Done is better than perfect. You don't make a
Love
perfect
that
product
saying.
the first time.
Right.
The way you make a perfect product is you make a terrible one and then you iterate and you iterate.
Improve upon
and you
it.
iterate
But
and you keep iterating. Yes.
Continue doing it. You continue
And so
working at it.
in the first few versions, it was rough, you know. And so now, like you said, you learn as you go. And so I'm learning as I go, you know.
I love it.
And it's been amazing. And so there's definitely going to be a large portion of my time, you know, now that I'm in a different place, you know, ministry-wise, that I can dedicate to some of these things.
What would have happened if you would have waited? Let's say now things finally kind of slow down a little bit, right? Or kind of there's more balance.
Mm-hmm.
What if you would have waited until now to get started?
In what?
With Concretus Press.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know all variations of the future.
But I mean, I bet you, you know, what I'm trying to get to is, like, for example, with the podcast or even with the live stream, if I would have waited until I had time, I wouldn't have been ready for the next thing, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
I wouldn't have had, I don't know, whatever it is, you know. So done is better than perfect.
Absolutely.
So for anyone out there thinking about starting or doing,
just do it.
just go for it. Take the leap.
I think that's Nike's slogan, but it's just honestly, just do it. Whatever it is, whatever God has put in your heart, whatever burden that you may sense, you know, whatever service you can be to your local congregation that maybe is not getting done, just do it. Even if it's not perfect, you know, God will help you. If you commit yourself, the Holy Ghost will help you. If it's truly God-given burden and it's something that it's going to benefit the body of Christ, whether locally or abroad, just do it.
And also,
I'm an advocate of that.
Doing it for the right reasons, you know.
For the right reasons.
Like not trying to, anytime you start trying to bring attention to yourself and put the spotlight, it's not about that. It just always be kingdom-minded, always be purpose-driven. You know, like you said earlier, catch the vision of your pastor, and then all the doors are going to open. There, you're going to see ministries that you never even thought of before. You're going to see the need, and it's a perfect opportunity to grow. And I mean, you might not be in whatever you find, you might not be in it forever. You know, if it's not your favorite thing to do, let's say you're not media driven, just for example, you don't always have to do it because other people will step up and then you can teach them and they will take your spot.
Yeah. You know, you can, you know, personally, I have difficulty concentrating. I'm not, you know, I've got to be honest here. And, I'm very project based. And, you know, the reason why Concretus Press, one of the reasons I started it was because I said, well, I have a few things I want to do. And I was like, well, let me, what general umbrella can I put those projects under? You know, small media company, Concretus Press. Because it might be the Bibles this year and something totally different next year, you know? And so, yeah, like you said, you don't have to be married to one thing. You can switch, you know, whatever.
Except your wife.
That's the different situation. We're metaphorically speaking here. We're talking about objects, not people. So you don't have to be stuck on one thing, stuck on one mode, on one medium.
And that's it.
And that's it. You can branch out. And so...
Or maybe what you set out to do will morph
into something else. You know, and so have the flexibility, you know. I mean, did you think you'd be doing this like 2 years ago? I mean,
2 years ago, bro, I don't even know, no idea.
I mean,
bro,
you do several things we were talking about earlier at this point. Like your days are like, I mean, you wear so many different hats.
You know what's funny today? I have to say this on live, and you know it's going to be on the podcast too once I edit it. Those bugs really like the light.
The door is just open and it's just.
That heat,
I'm going to pay for
California
that. I've got hit by so many mosquitoes last night.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't. They don't like me for some reason, but I don't mind. So I was doing a delivery earlier today, and this customer asked me. He was just trying to make conversation, right? And he's like, "So, what do you do for fun?" And I just kind of stood there. And I looked at him, and then I looked back down, and I was like, well, several years ago, I used to paintball, which was the lamest excuse, for something fun, And then later on the day, I had a meeting with a friend, and, some coffee goodness coming up soon, But later in the conversation, he's like, so what do you do for fun? And same thing.
You're like, fun,
I'm like,
fun.
I work.
Well, this is the truth. I think there's a certain level where you tap into where fulfillment is your fun. Meaning, whatever is meaningful to you in your life becomes fun. And when people ask you like what fun is, like people ask me like, what do I do for fun? And like sometimes I have to think like what you think what would like what is fun?
Like,
and then because you feel that if you tell them what your version of fun is, they're going to be like,
that's work.
Yeah, but for some people, just the way they're hardwired, work is fun because they love what they do.
Right.
And the whole idea of having to compartmentalize your life into like, this is what I do for fun, this is what I do for work. When you ask someone who's truly living a meaningful and fulfilling life, what they do for fun, they're just living their life. Their whole life is fun.
Right.
Like my life is fun. And so, yeah, if you were to ask me what I did for fun, like I try to have fun because for me, fun is being fulfilled. Fun is being in the will of God,
Yes, sir.
Fun is meaning, Like, okay, what do I do for fun? Like, the shooting range, that's fun.
Yeah.
But I'm going to be honest. I get fulfillment. I have fun when I finish a project. I have fun when I finish writing a sermon. I have fun when, I'm helping someone, on a project. It's a big umbrella, and so, yes.
Yeah, so the same goes with I guess for me.
Fun?
I guess for me the fun would be.
What is fun for you? Like is actually I think what is fun for you in the general sense is a good way of finding out who someone really is. Like what do you do for fun? And I think that would tell. It's a telling question if people answer it honestly.
Yes, and so I'm gonna. I'm gonna start asking people that. What do you do for
first
fun?
You have to tell us what you do. Not what you used to do several years ago. Not paintball.
This is fun.
This is fun.
So I love talking to people.
This is fun.
This is fun. I love talking to people. I love meeting new people.
Yeah.
But see, I like not just because I've had my share of when I started the YouTube channel was conferences to hang out.
Yeah.
People that never been there. My goal was, number one, the ones that didn't make it. Let me get some content. Let me get some clips of the service, not to give away too much and not to get in trouble with the DVD sales and the tape sales. Like, just get clips with my little GoPro and put them out for free on YouTube. Maybe some people will come. And then the vlog is like, this is what the hangout is like. This is who was here. If you weren't here, you need to be here.
Yeah.
And then that kind of blew up, you know. A lot of people, oh, I know who you are. Hey, I came to this conference because I saw your vlog. And I was like, that was very fulfilling. And I was having fun.
And you're having fun. Yeah.
And then that was free advert and continues to be. That's one of the main reasons I still do the vlog, because people see, oh, you do that. Oh, you know how to. Oh, wait, you shot that and you edited today and it's up tonight.
Right.
And tomorrow you're doing it all over again.
Yeah.
I'm like,
That's
yeah,
great.
but it's fun. It's like second nature, and it's free advertising for my first business, which is media production.
Exactly. You know, I saw the other day, there's a guy that I follow. He has a page. I really enjoy it. It's called Visualize Value. And I think the guy's name is Jack Butcher. And he said something the other day. It was great. I forget where I read it, but he said, do your work in public. You know, and that is be productive and get things done in public, because that's a way of networking. And so I think that's awesome, because
Oh,
there
I
was
like that.
I think there was a vlog that you put up, and I'm subscribed to your channel.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thanks for the support.
And so,
and all three of you watching.
I got, I saw you went to a church, helped the pastor out, set up the live stream, and I was like, wow, that's great. You know, it wasn't like it was necessarily this hilarious, entertaining, riveting, but what it was is you did your work in a very public way, and it allowed people to see what is possible. And I'm sure you got some more phone calls after that.
I did.
I'm pretty sure you got some phone calls.
Yes, but I love it, And during COVID, people were like, "How much do you charge for?" And during that time, I wasn't charging. I said, "If you want to give me a love offering, I will take it." Just it's time. It's whatever. I will train your people. But I wasn't charging a certain, because I didn't want anyone to think there goes that light.
Which one?
I didn't want that's the battery powered one. I think
it's gonna go cinematic.
Yeah, it's very cinematic now.
Look at that.
Look at that.
That's crazy.
I didn't want anyone to think that I was taking advantage of the COVID situation.
Yeah.
So I said, I'll take a low offering. But my goal is, like you were talking about how you want to put out content to teach people how to do the whole editing. That's a whole different ballgame for me. Like, 'cause I know nothing about type stuff.
Yeah, it's a whole nother world. I mean, I don't either, but I know enough, to make a book actually come to life.
There you go.
And look halfway decent. Well, look pretty decent. My wife helped me and stuff. And I actually did contact a professional graphic design, very well-known person, and I had them look over it. So I have professional help, just kind of guiding me. But sorry to steal.
Oh, no, it's hey, I can just start rambling and go on a rabbit trail. But my ultimate goal is to do what you just talked about, and be self-funded to where I don't have to be like, well, I charge this much. No. To go to a church, be there for a week, and say, okay, pastor, who are your media people, or who wants to be media people? And teach them a set of skills that not only will eliminate the need for buying whatever from whoever and using money for that, but do it all in-house. Your own graphics, photography, video, any kind of media production. So the saints will learn that, but they will also be able to start businesses, photography, video, social media marketing. So that's one of my goals, to get to
wow,
where,
that's amazing. Yeah.
I mean, I feel like there's a need for that.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of people out there that do a fantastic job promoting their church's social media, but I feel like we're still a little bit behind, and we need more people to step up and catch the vision. And
when you do things out in the open, as I was referring to earlier, when you work in public, the tide raises the boats everywhere. Everybody benefits. And so that's one of the things that I have a passion for, is like, okay, free content, but high quality content that inspires people
Yes.
to raise the bar, you know? Because yeah.
Like with for example, with this podcast, if there's, because I see other people out there that went and got the Rodecaster or that got the Switcher, and it's like, hey, cool, this is what I'm putting out, this is what I'm doing. I know there's 100 people out there that can do it better content, better. But it's like, if this is the kick that they need to do their own thing, but do it better, it's like, go for it. You know, I'm not like, I don't know what you call it, but like, if I see someone that does something better than me, I get questions sometimes when I say, oh, ask me anything or ask me whatever. They say, oh, who's better, Marco Rosales or so-and-so, you know? And I take jabs at people just for fun, but it's like, hey, if someone's out there doing better, it's like, man, good. Like, we need more of that. Like, if you're doing it for the kingdom, absolutely, let's go, you know? Yeah,
because at some point, the energies begin to feed off of each other, even if you don't know them personally. Like, I see a lot of things, and I'm like, man, that's great. And I'm inspired to do something better.
Yes. You know, or your own twist,
or my own variation. And so, you know, I think if people can not get into the trap of comparison.
Yes.
But to allow things to just inspire them, and you know, the Bible says to exhort one another to good works. You know, and I take things, you know, and you know, you can choose to look at something that's maybe whatever it is. You know, somebody trims hedges better than you do. You can sit there and say, man, that guy's got a better, you know, hedge trimmer than me, man. Or you could say, man, what is he doing? Let me learn from him.
Yes.
Even if I don't know him, you know, and you can allow that to exhort you to a place, you know, of growth. And it all depends on your perspective and on your attitude. And I think when someone does something excellent, I think the correct response is to admire that excellence and then also allow it to inspire you, you know? And so your slogan I've seen on your social media is, I seek not to impress, but to inspire. I did my homework.
Sir. Oh man, you sure did.
But you know what? Honestly, I've seen that a long time ago, and it stuck with me because I've actually realized that you've done that. Like, you've managed to connect genuinely with a lot of people, you know, within our movement, and to help them in some way, you know, in whatever particular niche you may have helped them. And even though we haven't even had a lot of interaction,
I know. I've been wanting to do this for a long time,
right?
Just you know, just to talk, just, you know.
We haven't had a whole lot of interaction. However, there's definitely been times where we, like you said, you were inspired by me. I was inspired by you. No words were necessary. We just needed each other to do things. To just do things, to be doers, right? And that's the whole point of your podcast.
Yes, sir. Dreamers and doers.
To be dreamers and doers, because you can have an impact on someone without even having, you know, contact.
And yeah, you don't. And that's where I was going with the. I went off on a rabbit trail, but you go to a conference, you meet people. Hi, bye. Let's take a selfie. Okay, that's it. Oh, do you know that person? Do you really know that person? But then I started saying, no, I really want to. So I really want to get to know that person. So every time I go somewhere to set up a live stream or to shoot a church promo video or to go wherever for whatever reason, I like to connect. I like to really sit down and really ask the questions, you know, who are you? What makes you wake up every morning? Like, really get to know the person and then make that connection, because you don't know when you're going to need that connection, or, you know,
absolutely
introduce them to someone else or whatever. And by doing this podcast, it's been nice to, you know, sit down and get to know people better. And I can't wait, you know, for the next episodes, because we have some pretty interesting.
Yeah, I'll be listening, man. I like podcasts, and I listen to a lot of podcasts. I listen to a lot of Audible. And I think it's great that you're also adding the video element. I mean, you can actually create a lot of content by making a video podcast. You can turn it into so many different things.
And just do little clips too.
Exactly. And I think the long form conversation is great. There's several podcasts that I listen to that are by apostolic Pentecostals, and I love it. I enjoy it. It's, you don't have to be sitting down and reading a book. You can do it passively. You can listen to stuff. You can listen to preaching on podcasts. It's great. I love the platform, but I think taking this new, I mean, obviously I did a podcast for a short time.
I want you to talk more about that too. Your podcast and.
Yeah, so I've done it. We've done a podcast. I enjoy listening to podcasts, and so I think this platform is going to be getting a lot more play in the very near future, especially with the advent of things like AirPods. I mean, you don't have to worry about getting tangled up in wires.
Right.
You could just go about your day, drive or wherever you listen to podcasts. And so I think it's a great form of media consumption. And why not put an apostolic Pentecostal podcast out there, that reinforces and encourages godly behavior.
Yes, sir.
And people to be business minded and, to inspire people to take action and wherever they are and to this is great. I love what you're doing.
Thank you. Now, are we expecting any more Bible talk or?
So that's kind of a lot of people have asked me, and hey, what happened to ATB? Well, as I said earlier, I tend to be pretty project based, and the inspiration was there when it was there. Now that's the inspiration to do a podcast, not the inspiration to teach Bible studies, because those are two different things. And when, I live by the motto, when you're out of soap, stop scrubbing. And when you said all you need to say about a certain subject, there's no need to beat a dead horse,
Right.
And so there's a lot of idioms in one paragraph right there. There's no need to repeat it. And people begin to approach me, hey, I listen to the podcast. It's great. And I would say, yeah, it's awesome. How's your Bible studies going? Because my assumption is that, they have a Bible study going. I'm like, oh, I'm not teaching one. I'm like, well, and so it's great. But at the end of the day, I believe it's in the book of Matthew or Mark where Jesus is teaching at the Sea of Galilee, or another book it says they calls it the Lake Gennesaret, and he was teaching, and then it says he left off from speaking, and that's when he launched out into the deep with the disciples, and there's just times where I tell myself, look, it's time to stop talking, and
it's time to start doing.
It's time to start doing, and so Jesus left off from speaking, and then he said, all right, boys, let's go out into the deep. And so for anybody who's wondering maybe where ATB went, it was about 20 some odd episodes. And honestly, half of them were I re-aired things that inspired me to teach Bible studies, sermons and things like that. And so when I felt like, man, I think we're done.
It was time to move on.
It's time to leave off from speaking, as the King James said. He left off from speaking, and it's just time to go do it.
Right.
And we get a lot of inspiration, we get a lot of motivation, and like you said earlier, maybe it was a little. I'm sure it may ruffle some feathers. You didn't lack time, you lacked discipline, and I think there does need to be that call to action, and our way of simply putting out a call to action was to just stop the podcast.
Right.
And I'm telling you, there's times I wanted to do another episode. I'm like, we did it. We did the episode, and my prayer was that someone, got a chart and said, I'm going to go be a soul winner, and put someone on the pew in their local church. That's my prayer.
Amen.
And if that happened just once, then the podcast served its purpose.
Yes,
because
sir.
I didn't want to fall in love with just talking about Bible studies. I want to be in love with Bible studies.
There is, and that's, you know, it's funny that you mentioned that, because when I was talking, I always run everything by a couple of different people to hear what they have to say. And a lot of times it's people that will encourage me, or sometimes they'll say, well, maybe not because this. But I like that, because sometimes it's like, oh, that's a logistical problem that I need to address. Or sometimes it's like, oh, you don't think I can do it? Watch me. And, you know, I always like to run things by my brother, you know, who gives me feedback and stuff. And a lot of the things that I guess any media any media content that you consume will tell you how to do things. And just for example, with video, you can be watching all these videos about how to use the newest Sony camera, $3,000 camera, or, you know, or well, if you're a Canon guy, this other kind of camera, how to hack a nice little EOS M, you know. And you can watch all of them. You can know all the specs and you can know everything about them. But until you start shooting yourself with a phone, with a GoPro, and then
shoot yourself with a gun. I had to, man. I'm sorry, man. I couldn't resist. I like a good pun every now and then. Yeah, but you're right. Until you put some action behind whatever knowledge it is that you've gained,
the knowledge is just worthless, almost. I mean, you know, you can know all the specs, you can know what everything does, but until you start doing it, and then you say, okay, well, that's what I tell people that want to get started. They're like, oh, what do I need to do? It gets started.
Just start with whatever you have. Like if you go on our church, if you go on the Central Bay Pentecostal Church YouTube page and you scroll down to the first video, it's literally sitting right there. You know, I was like staring into the camera, you know, doing the like, could somebody give me a comment, you know? tell me this is working. I was using my Samsung Galaxy Note 8. That was
on your phone.
That was our first one.
Wow.
And within a matter of a few weeks, because I just committed to just doing it with whatever we had, you know, and I could have waited. And it was at some point, you couldn't even buy stuff online because Amazon was delayed. Everybody was delayed.
I remember that.
And so whatever you had is whatever you had.
That's it. Or it was either that or the price gouging with the ATEM.
Right. They had these, the ATEM Mini, the BLACKMAGIC switchers, you know, for live streaming.
We lost camera for.
People
That's why it went black.
Oh, people were selling them for, I don't even know, like $1,200, and they're like $300.
It's a $300 item.
Yeah. So you're either subjected to price gouging or you had to wait. And
until now,
what were you going to do in the meantime? There was stuff I was looking at back in April and May that wasn't going to get here until this month. I'm like, what do I do? Do we sit here and, you know, twiddle our thumbs until the nice stuff comes in, or do you just use what you have on hand?
Like to say it at the end of my year, end of the year video. You know, I make like this little recap. I did this, I did that, but I always like to say, do what you can with what you have. Do it now because tomorrow is not promised.
Yeah.
So do it.
just do it. No, I like what you're saying because that's what I live by. You know, there's a saying, lecturing birds how to fly. Have you heard that saying? You know, science is great, but there was, you know, aerodynamics, right? That's a whole science of flight.
Right.
There was no science of flight. Like Wilbur and Orville Wright, they just made an airplane. And the science actually emerged after they made the airplane. And it's simple because there's explicit knowledge and then there's knowledge gained from experience. Ever heard the saying, some things are caught and some things are taught, right? Some things are taught, some things are caught, right? And so most knowledge is what's called tacit knowledge, meaning you caught it. It's how humans learn almost everything. I mean, I have a 7-week-old baby, and it's just incredible to see how much they learn without forms of communication. I mean, It's a miracle. It's wonderful.
Incredible.
You know, like the only way I can describe it for those of you millennials or Gen Z is like It's like imagine getting, this little human being gets a software update like every day, like
Right.
like something new. Like today, she locked eyes on me from a certain distance that like just a few days ago she couldn't do. I'm like, man, how did she? Everything, it's developing. And so even when you're an adult, most of the things you learn are from doing. You learn more from doing. And so your explicit knowledge, like what you know and what you can verbalize, is a tip of the iceberg. The rest of it is stuff that you've learned from experience. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're 10 years old. You've had enough life experience to write a small book. It's the truth.
Right.
People are full of knowledge. It's just Proverbs talks about how that man's heart is like a well, but a wise man will draw water out of it. Everybody has got like a lot in there. And a lot of times they aren't even aware of it until someone can actually make them aware that it is there.
Right.
And so that's one of the beautiful things about networking with other, godly people, is they pull things out of you never knew existed. Like, my wife is an artist, and I never considered myself artistic, ever. But, we've been married now for almost 4 years. And then the other day I asked myself, I said, because she's an artist, so she would know. I said, babe, am I an artist? She's like, you are. Because I was doing things that I didn't really understand, that like where they came from. No one consciously taught me them. And I said, and my wife says, I think you're an artist. And it blew my mind because I'd never seen myself in that light. And so that came from me starting Concretus Press. My wife's an artist, so I like to hide behind her and all the artistic stuff. I just say she did it, but I just asked her opinion.
Right.
I guess that's maybe not intellectually honest, but a lot of the cover art, like I did it myself, and it's not even because I just knew that like, man, a graphic design, that'd be expensive. I'm like, I'll just do it myself. The next thing you know, I was doing artistic things, and I was doing them on a regular basis. But that would not have happened had I not just said, I'm going to do this. This was totally over my head. I've never published a book. I've never done any of this. But when you do stuff, the wealth of knowledge that God has put within you begins to manifest itself for His glory, right? And so God has put things in the heart of man. And so I'm not sure how much time we have left, but
we're good. We're only at an hour 17 minutes.
Oh man, that's way too long for my taste.
We're still gonna have time for burgers though. It's almost 10 p.m.
We're gonna have to just pray in Jesus' name that the Lord will provide.
If not, there's this bomb taco place around here.
I know where it is. I know exactly which one it is.
Little taco truck. It's like
Tacos El Gordo. I mean,
I don't. And there's a couple. There's a couple.
Yeah, we'll find one. Hopefully, one that we don't have to wear bulletproof vests.
I mean, the places I've been to, it's Oakland.
Hey,
so
but if you're scared for stray bullets while you're buying a taco, it's going to be a good taco. I'm just being straight up.
It's going to be worth it.
I'm just being straight up. I'm just being honest. But going back to what I was saying, if God has put something in your heart, you'll surprise yourself, what will come out. And if I could help, if this podcast, if this episode, if someone could, if they made it this far, praise God, if they could say,
all three of you, there's 3 people that have been, because we're doing it live, and then I'll re-air next week. But for those that want to watch it now, there's been 3. Oh, one just dropped, so we're at 2. But there's 3 that this has been
2.
7. But then on the replay, a lot of people rewatch it. But.
And people have time, of course. But if all this does is inspire someone to get out there and just do something that you don't even know how to do it, you just want to do it, then I think this episode will have served its purpose.
Yes, sir. The whole podcast, the whole season 1.
Season 1.
For season 2, I'm gonna have couples.
That'll be awesome.
Get your wives ready, y'all. Get your spouses ready.
Maybe my daughter will join us too.
Oh yes, that would be that. I haven't even met her. Gotta meet her if she's awake. Ah, well,
so she might wake up.
Yeah. So is there anything else you would like to add before we conclude this episode of Dreamers and Doers?
I feel like we've covered a lot of ground. If you have any more questions, you can ask me.
Well, once we started talking about food, my mind kind of just...
I'm going to be honest. I'm derailed. This train is...
I mean, I was
off the tracks.
We were talking about learned, like doing by learning. So I was going to go into Elon Musk's Neuralink. Because that can be so... I don't know. Do we think... I think we can give it 10 minutes. And then we call it quits.
Yeah, I saw that. I'm pretty sure that's like... I don't know. Is that real?
It is. But there's people saying that's going to be the mark of the beast.
Yeah, it sounds
blah,
like
blah, blah. But, okay, to anyone saying that, because there's always something comes out.
It just seems invasive to me. I'm not sure.
So... For the people saying that it's, if you don't know what Neuralink is, just look it up.
Just Google it.
Yeah, just Google it. It's
biohacking, right? Basically.
Well, here's the thing. The way he describes it is, you already have your phone, so it takes time to unlock it. It takes time to get to the app you need to use, send a message, because you're interacting, from your mind to your muscles. To physically touching it.
For those who listen to Adventures in Odyssey, it's like the Nova Box, but real life. All right. For all the Adventures in Odyssey fans.
I never caught up on that, but
those who know will know.
So it's mostly people that kind of grew up in church. I noticed.
Yeah. Well, actually, my wife had never listened to Adventures in Odyssey, and I stopped a long time ago. But when I met my wife, I made a few Adventures in Odyssey references, and she didn't know what I was talking about. It. So my wife...
And y'all still got married.
My wife listened to like all 500 and some odd episodes in a matter of like a few weeks.
Wow.
So she caught up.
That's dedication.
Now she listens to it, and if we listen to it, it's because she turned it on. I mean,
It's pretty good. I'm not going to lie. The production value is incredibly high.
The value has been great. It's just...
But anyway, with the Neuralink, yes, I would. I'm one of those guys that if something like that comes out, I don't care if I'll volunteer to do it.
We'll let you test it out, and then I'll wait like 10 years just to see if if it falls under like Prop 65 or like causes cancer. I don't know, man. It's obviously impressive technology.
Yes.
If they can really do that. If they can basically convert, your thoughts into actions on a digital device. I mean, that would be pretty...
It's just to save time. I mean, just to...
It would be incredible for things like CAD drafting.
Yes. And just immediately...
Because you're going from here...
Directly.
You're going from your...
To the device.
Your mind's eye to the device. I'm gonna spill the beans on something that I've been working on, and it's a little bit of music. I'm not gonna spill all the beans, but it's music, and I'm not too musically inclined in the sense of I don't play the piano. I couldn't get on an instrument. I could play the drums. That's it, and that's it. But recently, they've made some pretty incredible advancements in Midi technology, and they're making software that converts vocal notes into Midi information, which is essentially digital information. And so if you can hold a tune, you could essentially circumvent, there's a lot of musicians who aren't necessarily musically literate, but they can get on software and they can make music.
Right.
They get on a digital audio workstation and they can make music. And for people who fall in that category of being musical but not actually having, mastery over an instrument, they're developing software now that you can circumvent having to play an instrument in order to get the MIDI information into the computer. You can literally just use your voice. It's called voice to MIDI. And I saw it. I was like, man, I'm going to have to check this out.
Yes.
Because, there's things that I hear in my head, and there's lots of people like this who you hear something, but you can't execute
translate it to
on the keys. And I've always been musical in that sense, and always played a little bit here and there, and dabbled in guitar, played the drums mostly, used to play the bass a little bit, but I never got proficient at an instrument. But I can hold a tune to save my life. And so I'm like, that's incredible that they've advanced technology to the point where you could now maybe you can throw out a whole process, and you can go straight from your imagination to software and bring something to life. I'm like, that's something I could get with. So yeah, in that sense, I think the Neuralink is powerful because, man, if you can visualize something, but you haven't learned all the shortcuts in AutoCAD or whatever.
Right. And I mean,
you don't know how to physically use it.
Right. And that's the exciting thing for me because I love technology.
Yeah.
And yes, it can be used for evil, and I'm not one of those people that worry about what's going to happen. It's like, no, just go with it, and try it. And because
anything can be used for evil. The greatest piece of technology is the human mind, and it's used for evil all the time. Well, do we get rid of brains?
Exactly.
And so I do think that obviously you can get into a deeper philosophical conversation about all this. I do think there are conversations to be had around, technology and, where you should draw the line on certain things. But I mean, by and large, anything can be used for evil, and so use it for good.
Yes, sir. I mean, I would definitely use it for good, but more than anything, just freeing up all that time, all that processing time, processing power. I mean, but anyway, that's a conversation for a different day.
That's the rabbit trail for It's late. We're hungry.
Yes, we're hungry. It's about that time. You heard it from the man himself, Tselot Kifle. Am I even saying it right?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, yeah. Tselot Kifle. This has been Dreamers and Doers with your host Marco Rosales. Thank you for tuning in and sticking around, all three of you, and the rest of you that didn't watch it live. It'll be live in a couple of weeks. I'm trying to do one each Monday, so
awesome.
Be looking for it.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being on the podcast.
Absolutely.
And God bless. And cut.